Tamela's daughter has courageously stepped into the spotlight, unveiling a heartbreaking truth that has long been hidden behind the scenes. What was supposed to be a journey of healing and hope has instead been overshadowed by a relentless drive for profit, at the expense of Tamela's health and dignity. In a world where family should come first, this story reveals how love and loyalty were compromised for a carefully crafted image and a lucrative gospel empire. This is not just a tale of betrayal. It's a daughter's fight to reclaim her mother's truth and demand accountability from the man who was supposed to protect her. A silent ICU and a stage set for struggle. Imagine being a woman who once commanded the stage with a voice so powerful it moved millions. Tamela Mann, the powerhouse behind Take Me to the King, had become a symbol of strength and spiritual triumph. She lost over 200 pounds, and the Christian community applauded her discipline, calling her transformation nothing short of miraculous. Women begged for her diet secrets, churches invited her for wellness sermons, and gospel blogs praised her as a testimony of faith and perseverance. But according to Portia, the story everyone believed was a lie. The truth behind Tamela's transformation was far more disturbing and heartbreaking. It wasn't powered by divine intervention or green smoothies. It was fueled by pain, emergency surgeries, relentless pressure, and silent suffering. At the center of this turmoil was David Mann, a daughter's emotional outburst, breaking the code of silence. Portia Mann has always spoken publicly about David with respect and affection. She grew up under his roof, called him Dad, even though they aren't biologically related. But when her mother, the woman who raised her as her own, ended up in a hospital bed, unable to walk or even speak, something inside Portia snapped. Years of watching her mother's suffering, hushed cries for help, and ignored pain came crashing down. She said, bluntly and painfully, "Dad pushed her until she broke." Sources close to the family reveal that Tamela's weight loss wasn't a healthy transformation. It was extreme, a dangerous rapid decline masked by smiling Instagram posts. Behind those perfect pictures were injections to stave off exhaustion, muscle atrophy slowly eating away at her strength, and multiple emergency surgeries that few outside the closest circle knew about. Tamela begged for rest. She said, "I can't do this anymore." And David's chilling response was, "We can't cancel now. We already sold tickets." The high cost of blessed and highly favored. Maybe you think David Mann didn't realize how serious things had become. Think again. Multiple insiders, including a family nurse, confirmed that Tamela was frequently given performance-boosting medications just to get through concerts. These weren't vitamins or harmless supplements. They were powerful injections designed to mask inflammation and fatigue. Her legs would swell painfully. Her breathing would become labored. Once, backstage, Tamela collapsed for 13 seconds and lost her pulse. The official explanation? Low blood sugar. But Portia calls it what it was, a code blue. The very next day, Tamela's face was back on posters and promotional material, while she herself was fighting for her life. Meanwhile, her own daughter sat outside the ICU, praying desperately that her mother would wake up and remember her name. Tamela told David she was tired, and his reply? "You're too blessed to be tired." This, Portia says, is what she calls toxic faith, the kind of hustle that masquerades as ministry, but is really just a machine of control and profit. The machine behind the ministry. David Mann, the charming, funny gospel husband known for his roles in Meet the Browns, was allegedly turning Tamela's health crisis into a commercial empire. While Tamela was being rushed into surgery, her image was plastered on detox kits, wellness videos generated by AI, and subscription-based virtual choir apps that repackaged her old songs as fresh devotionals. Portia didn't even know these products existed until she saw advertisements running under her mother's name, while Tamela was unconscious in a hospital bed. That was the moment Portia finally snapped. She began demanding answers. Who approved this? Where is the money going? Why is her mother's pain being packaged and sold like a product? The answers, she says, weren't holy. One leaked document from a former assistant close to the family revealed that Tamela's likeness was licensed without her explicit consent. Contracts were signed through a power of attorney arrangement, with David overseeing the process. Portia calls it what it was: exploitation, not protection. Behind the scenes, spreadsheets, timelines, and social media templates were being used to maintain the illusion of Tamela's comeback, even though no one knew if she would ever truly recover. The kingdom or the cash register? An old church friend of Tamela's, who preferred to remain anonymous out of respect and fear, described the reality behind the scenes with chilling clarity. Tamela was in excruciating pain. She wasn't just tired or worn out. She was begging for a break, a moment to rest and heal. But the machine she was part of was relentless. They just kept saying, "The kingdom needs you," the friend recalled, the words ringing hollow, because what they were really saying was far from spiritual devotion. It was about revenue. The kingdom wasn't a higher calling. It was a business empire built around Tamela's name and her image. Detox kits priced at $79 a pop were being marketed and sold, all bearing her endorsement, even as she lay unconscious, fighting for her life. Faith retreats and concerts were promoted aggressively, their advertising campaigns going full force, while Tamela was confined to a ventilator, unable to respond or rest. What's perhaps most painful in this story is who was excluded from the decisions that affected Tamela's care and legacy. Her daughter, Portia, was nowhere near those planning meetings. Instead, she was sleeping in sterile hospital chairs, fasting and anointing her mother's hands with oil, pleading with God for a miracle that seemed further away with each passing day. While Portia was consumed by worry and faith, her father, Tamela's husband, was posting vacation selfies online, captions full of hashtags like "Stay Prayed Up," giving the appearance of peace and strength, all while the real struggle was hidden from public view. A crushing blow and a turning point. The situation reached a heartbreaking crossroads after one particularly brutal surgery, which involved nerve regeneration and spinal reinforcement, procedures intended to help Tamela regain mobility, but that came with grave risks. The doctors delivered a stark warning. If Tamela was pushed too hard, she might never walk again. Worse, her organs could start failing, putting her life in even greater danger. Portia, seeing the devastating toll these pressures were taking on her mother, pleaded with David Mann to cancel all upcoming events and tours. She begged him to allow Tamela the time and space she desperately needed to heal without the crushing weight of public expectation. But David's response was cold and dismissive. "We'll see how she feels next month." Next month. A phrase that felt like a cruel joke. At that moment, Tamela couldn't even stand on her own 2 feet. The urgency of her condition was clear to everyone, except the man controlling the schedule. That was the moment Portia's eyes were opened. This was no longer about faith, about family, or about love. It was about control and image, about maintaining a facade at any cost. From that day forward, Portia made a vow to speak out and tell the truth. She refused to be silent any longer, no matter the consequences. Her courage marked a turning point, not only for her family, but for the entire gospel community, shining a light on the harsh realities hidden beneath the polished veneer of gospel fame. Breaking the silence, the fallout. When Portia went public with her accusations, David's team tried to silence her. A PR representative allegedly warned, "You're going to destroy the legacy." Portia's answer was fierce and clear. "This legacy isn't worth my mama's life." And that's where the story escalates. Suddenly, there was deleted footage, Instagram censorship, secret recordings from hospital hallways, and a gospel-wide panic no one expected. Portia posted a video sitting in her car, tears streaming down her face, saying, "Mom is in a wheelchair. My dad said he was protecting her, but he was protecting the tour schedule." The video exploded with over 300,000 views in hours. Then, suddenly, it was gone, removed for misinformation. Her account was locked temporarily for suspicious behavior. Suspicious? She wasn't selling crypto or spreading conspiracy theories. She was telling the truth. Her mother couldn't feel her legs. Meanwhile, gospel gossip blogs, the same ones that once posted daily updates on Tamela's detox journey, went silent. No statements from popular outlets like Praise Nation, Church and Shade, or The Anointed. Why? Because David Mann's team was aggressively rewriting the narrative. They weren't just cleaning up the internet. They were controlling the story in real time. Image Priority Protocol. Trademark, damage control on steroids. An anonymous insider leaked a confidential media directive from the Mann production house called the Image Priority Protocol Trademark Recovery. It read like a Netflix scandal dossier. No acknowledgement of permanent damage. Avoid the word paralysis at all costs. Reuse old fitness footage to maintain the illusion of strength. Limit Portia's visibility across all channels. Yes, that's right. While Tamela was undergoing intensive spinal regeneration therapy behind closed doors, the public was shown recycled clips from 2022 of her working out, and the wellness devotional Tamela supposedly recorded weeks ago. That, too, was an AI-generated fabrication. A source close to the production revealed an AI voice model of Tamela was licensed to a Christian app, without her current consent or knowledge. Even Portia wasn't told. So while the real Tamela was being lifted in and out of bed by nurses, her virtual self was preaching strength and perseverance to millions. Legal threats, silencing a daughter's plea for truth. When Portia Mann, the devoted daughter of gospel star Tamela Mann, began asking questions about her mother's real condition, she was met not with empathy or understanding, but with cold, calculated legal threats. A leaked email from a public relations manager tied to David Mann's label revealed the harsh reality behind the scenes. The message bluntly stated that Portia's public statements were damaging to brand equity and warned of a cease and desist letter if she continued to speak out. The phrase brand equity in this context was revealing. It laid bare the true priority for those controlling the narrative, protecting the glossy, carefully curated image of Tamela's ministry and career, rather than addressing the devastating truth of her fragile health. Here was a woman, lying in a hospital bed with a do not resuscitate order in place, a medical reality that should command compassion and care. Yet the dominant concern was not her well-being, but the preservation of her public persona and the financial empire it supported. For Portia, this wasn't just a family dispute or a private matter anymore. It was a battle against an entire system that placed profit, public perception, and marketability above the life and dignity of a mother. The emotional weight she carried was enormous. She wasn't seeking headlines or revenge. She was pleading for honesty in a world where truth had been sacrificed to protect an image. The vanishing prayer line, and the illusion of progress. Longtime fans and followers of Tamela's ministry began noticing subtle but unsettling changes in early 2024. The prayer line that Tamela had faithfully hosted, a lifeline for many who found hope and spiritual connection through her voice, was quietly cancelled in March. No public explanation was given. Months later, the prayer line reappeared, but with one glaring difference. Tamela herself was nowhere to be seen or heard. In her place was a so-called spirit team, a group of hand-picked speakers delivering pre-recorded messages and reading from past quotes attributed to Tamela. Among their statements were hopeful claims that Tamela feels stronger each day and that the Lord is moving her legs again. These assertions were not backed by any medical updates or independent verification. The carefully choreographed optimism felt less like genuine spiritual encouragement and more like a strategic public relations effort, an attempt to sustain a narrative of recovery that the reality stubbornly contradicted. Fans familiar with Tamela's history and character found this orchestrated display troubling. It seemed to many like an attempt to maintain the illusion of progress and wellness when, in fact, the truth was far more complex and painful. The spirit team wasn't Tamela. It was a placeholder, keeping the brand alive while the woman behind it was fighting an invisible, very real battle. Growing doubts and viral outcry suspicion grew rapidly among Tamela's fan base. The tipping point came when a social media user, who managed a popular Tamela update page, posted a side-by-side comparison that broke hearts across the gospel community. One video showed Tamela walking unassisted on stage in early 2022, full of life and strength. The other, taken more recently, showed her being wheeled into a clinic, her head bowed and body fragile. The stark contrast between these images sparked outrage and confusion. Why was there such a disconnect between what fans were shown and what was really happening? Hashtags like "Where is Tamela?" and "Let Portia Speak" exploded across Twitter and Instagram, with thousands demanding transparency and accountability. Fans felt betrayed, desperate for answers about the woman they loved and admired. Adding fuel to the fire, insiders began dropping cryptic hints on social media. A former background vocalist posted a mysterious message indicating that the truth was beginning to emerge and that more members of Tamela's inner circle might soon break their silence. This growing momentum forced David Mann's camp into defensive mode, scrambling to control the narrative as rumors swirled of impending public investigations. Allegations ranged from medical misrepresentation to unauthorized use of Tamela's likeness in merchandising and financial audits into church funds linked to the family's ministry. Family, silence, and fractures. While the public storm raged, the private cost was mounting within the Mann family itself. Reports surfaced that David Mann and Portia had not spoken in months, a painful silence that underscored the deep divisions and unresolved conflicts between them. The family, once united around a shared mission of faith and music, was fracturing under the pressure of public scrutiny and personal grief. Meanwhile, Tamela's health remained precarious and her physical recovery uncertain. Her public appearances were limited to highly controlled and carefully curated social media posts, many of which raised questions about whether she had even consented to them. For fans and observers, it felt like a troubling charade, a manufactured presence designed to protect the brand at the expense of honesty. Portia's fight was not for spotlight or fortune. It was for the dignity and truth of her mother's condition. In a now-deleted Instagram Live video, she made a heartbreaking declaration: "If speaking up ruins their perfect image, so be it. I'd rather have a broken family than a broken mother." These words cut through the facade, revealing the moral complexity and emotional turmoil behind the scenes. It was a stark choice between loyalty to a family brand and loyalty to the truth, and Portia chose the latter. Backup singers break their silence. The dam began to break when those closest to Tamela, who had remained silent for years, finally started sharing their experiences. Backup singers, the women who had stood by her on stage and witnessed her decline, began posting cryptic messages and heartfelt confessions on their private social media accounts. One former choir director, her voice cracking with emotion, described nights backstage when Tamela would whisper, "I'm so tired, overwhelmed by the exhaustion and pain." David Mann, she said, would respond with a gentle pat on the shoulder and the words, "Just one more song." What was publicly framed as dedication to the ministry and unwavering faith revealed itself as relentless pressure, a demand to push through pain and exhaustion for the sake of the show. These revelations shed light on a troubling culture within the gospel industry, where silence and endurance were expected, and health concerns were often suppressed or ignored. The pressure to maintain the image of strength and spiritual power came at a deadly cost. Talented artists like Tamela were expected to perform and inspire, even as their bodies broke down. A culture of silence and endurance. This story isn't just about one family or one singer. It's a cautionary tale about the gospel industry as a whole. Behind the scenes of the uplifting music and powerful performances is often a harsh reality of physical and emotional strain. The expectations to deliver miracles, to remain anointed, and to uphold a perfect image can push artists beyond their limits. In Tamela's case, the cost was devastating. Her daughter's courage in speaking out has exposed cracks in the system and sparked important conversations about artist welfare, transparency, and the sometimes toxic intersections of faith, family, and business. What was once hidden in green rooms and rehearsal halls is now out in the open, demanding accountability and change. The gospel community faces a reckoning. Will it choose to protect its stars and honor their well-being, or will it continue to prioritize profit and image above all else? For Tamela, Portia, and many others caught in similar struggles, the stakes couldn't be higher. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more valuable updates. Stay informed. Stay updated. Hit that subscribe button.